Okay, let's unpack this. We're diving into a topic that has really moved from the fringe into mainstream recovery and even cosmetics. The power of light.
Right.
We're talking about red light therapy, or as scientists call it, photobiomodulation,
Yeah.
PBM.
Yeah.
It's being sold as this, miracle cure for everything from wrinkles to recovering from a major injury.
And this is why this deep dive is so critical, because most people, frankly, approach this technology completely wrong.
How so?
The sources we've got stacked up here, they make it incredibly clear. Success with PBM isn't about buying the biggest panel or just, shining a red light on yourself for 5 minutes. It is entirely about the dose.
The dose. Okay, so that's
Yeah.
the mystery we need to solve today. If you actually want results, you have to get your head around two critical units. First, the intensity. That's the light hitting your skin, measured in milliwatts per square centimeter.
MWCM,
And second, the total energy you deliver. That's the dose, measured in joules per square centimeter.
or PCM.
And there's this other concept we have to define, the one that separates, like you said, the science from the hype.
The biphasic dose response.
Biphasic dose response.
It sounds complicated, but it's just the scientific rule that governs all of this. If you get the dose wrong, and that means too little, or, crucially, too much light, you just cancel out the therapeutic effect. It does nothing.
So our mission today is really the ultimate reality check. We're going to establish the evidence-based optimal dosage, and then we're going to apply that knowledge to a popular portable device, the PRUNGO FLUXGO.
The one reviewed by the 5K runner.
Exactly, to see if its specs actually stack up against what the science demands for real pain relief and recovery.
It's the difference between wasting your time and, well, achieving genuine cellular change.
Let's start at square one, because RLT, it has so many acronyms. We've got low-level light therapy, LLLT. We've got photobiomodulation, PBM.
Right. And the light that actually works, it falls into two main bands. You've got the visible red light, usually around 630 to 680 nanometers. And then you have the invisible stuff, the near-infrared or NIR. That's mostly in the 810 to 850 nanometer range.
Okay, but what's it doing? I mean, the core science here is what's so fascinating.
It is. It all happens at the cellular level, specifically inside your mitochondria.
The powerhouses of the cell.
The powerhouse of the cell, exactly. The light photons, they target this one key molecule called cytochrome astute oxidase.
CCO. Okay, that sounds like something from a lab report. Can you break that down? Is it like a gatekeeper for the cell's battery?
That is a perfect way to think about it, yes.
Yeah.
When your cells absorb these specific photons, they supercharge that electron transport chain.
Supercharge it how?
They boost the cell's production of ATP, that's cellular energy, by a massive 30 to 40%.
Wow.
And this is huge, especially in cells that are already struggling. Think about muscle tissue after a hard workout or an inflamed joint. The light is literally throwing fuel back on that cellular fire.
So it's not just warming the tissue, it's literally flipping an energy switch inside the damaged cell.
Exactly. And the sources point to two other crucial things happening. First, the light helps knock nitric oxide, NO, off of that CCO molecule.
Okay.
Nitric oxide likes to get in there and block CCO, especially in stress cells. So by kicking it off, you instantly restore the cellular engine.
You're clearing a traffic jam that was stalling the whole energy factory.
Precisely. And the second thing involves generating controlled levels of reactive oxygen species, ROS.
Wait, ROS, aren't those the bad guys? The free radicals associated with aging and damage?
They usually are, yes.
Right.
But at these low controlled levels from RLT, they act as really important signaling molecules. This little pulse of ROS triggers a protective anti-inflammatory response in the body. It's a concept called hormesis.
Hormesis. Okay, let's slow down on that for a second. We've all heard the saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Is that what's happening here?
That is the perfect analogy for photobiomodulation. You're stressing the cell just enough that it activates these deep protective repair mechanisms.
Making it more resilient for the next time.
Exactly. More resilient, and it accelerates the healing that's already happening.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for anyone thinking about buying one of these devices. We know how it works. But where do we need that light to go? Why do so many devices mix visible red light with that invisible NIR?
It all comes down to wavelength and how deep it can penetrate. The basic rule is simple. The longer the wavelength, the deeper the light can get into your tissue.
So tell us about the two main zones then.
Okay, starting with the red light, that's the 630 to 680 nanometer range. This light is pretty shallow. It only penetrates about 5 to 10 millimeters.
So skin deep, basically.
Skin deep. Epidermis, superficial fascia. This is your cosmetic light. Studies show 630 nanometers is great for boosting collagen, smoothing fine lines, and even helping with things like psoriasis. And that's slightly longer, 660 nanometer wavelength. That's fantastic for surface inflammation, for wound healing.
But if I've got, say, a strained hamstring or deep arthritis in my hip, that shallow penetration isn't going to do anything for me.
Absolutely not. And that's why the near-infrared, the NIR spectrum, particularly 810 to 850 nanometers, is so crucial for deep recovery. This range is known as the optical window because it penetrates dramatically deeper. We're talking 30 to 40 millimeters.
So 3 to 4 centimeters.
Sometimes up to 5 centimeters. It can reach deep muscle, tendons, bone, and even brain tissue.
Whoa, hold on. I have to stop you there. Light penetrating the brain? That seems impossible. The skull is so dense. What are the sources saying about that?
It's truly astonishing research. The 810 nanometer wavelength in particular is being studied heavily for this. The sources indicate that when you apply it transcranially, shining the light through the skull, it still delivers enough photons to activate CCO in stressed neurons.
And they're seeing results.
They're seeing very promising results in improving recovery after stroke and traumatic brain injury. It helps those damaged brain cells ramp up their energy to survive. They're even studying it for major depression and anxiety.
That is a massive implication. You're moving light therapy from just a muscle treatment to potentially a systemic brain treatment.
It all comes back to that core mechanism. If your neurons are stressed, light can help them recover. So for an athlete or just anyone dealing with deep joint pain, a device that combines that 660 red with 830 or 850 NIR is really the most effective tool.
You're tackling the surface inflammation and the deep cellular energy at the same time.
Exactly.
Okay, let's pivot to the really technical piece that trips everyone up, the dosing. This is why people buy a device, use it every day, and see nothing.
Right. We have to stop thinking about duration, how many minutes, and start focusing on irradiance or power density.
And MWCM, mother.
In MWCM, this is the intensity hitting the skin. Think of it like water pressure. If you have a trickle of water, you can run the hose all day and barely fill a bucket.
So if your device is underpowered.
If your device is, say, less than 10 millicmHE, it just won't generate the photon density you need to trigger that CCO response. It's useless.
So what's the scientific threshold? What do we need to look for?
Well, studies use a huge range, anywhere from 10 up to 200 millicmHE macadate. For a bare minimum effect on the skin, you need at least 20. But if you want to get through clothing or reach deep muscle, you generally need an intensity of at least 100 millibody measured right at the skin.
Okay, that's intensity. Now, the second number is the total energy delivered. That's the dose or fluence.
In JCME, correct. The dose is your total energy volume. We calculate it with a simple formula. Power density times time in minutes times 0.001.
Wait. Why that strange 0.001 factor?
It's just a conversion factor. It's a bit of math to standardize the units, converting milliwatts to watts and minutes to seconds, so we end up with joules per square centimeter.
So if you forget that, your math will be way off.
Way, way off. You'll think you've delivered 1,000 times more energy than you actually have. A critical detail.
Okay, so let's look at the dose requirements, because the sources show a huge difference depending on what you're treating.
A huge difference. For skin and cosmetic stuff surface level, you want lower intensity, maybe 20 to 50 milliW entrate, for a shorter time. You're aiming for a total dose about 2 to 10 JCMNS. Most studies say the sweet spot is around 4 to 6.
But for deep tissue, for chronic pain, for muscle recovery, the sources say you need a huge jump in energy.
A massive jump. For those deeper problems, you need doses in the range of 10 to 70 JCMNA. It's a wide range.
10 to 70, wow.
Yeah, and if you're targeting something really deep or dense, like trying to address inflammation causing tinnitus, some sources suggest a very high dose, maybe 60 JCMNA or even more.
I have to admit that 10 to 70 range sounds almost too broad. How is someone at home supposed to know if their back pain needs 15 joules or 65 joules?
That's an excellent question. It really highlights the complexity. The general rule is for acute soreness, you start lower, maybe 10 to 20 JCM intervals. But for deep chronic issues or tissues with low blood flow like tendons, you have to push towards the higher end of that window, 40, 50, even 70 JCM and AGO. The key is that the device has to be capable of delivering that high dose in a reasonable amount of time.
Which brings us back to that biphasic dose response, the idea that more isn't always better.
Right. Too low, nothing happens. But if you overdose, the therapeutic effects just diminish. They can even stop completely.
Why? Why does it become counterproductive?
We think it's because you overload the cell's ability to process the signal. You might generate too much of that ROS, the reactive oxygen species. And instead of a helpful signal, it just overwhelms the cell, causing exhaustion or even damage.
So you're trying to give this cell a boost, but if you blast it too hard, it just shuts down.
Exactly. We even saw this in muscular endurance studies. Increasing the dose past a certain point actually reduced the positive effect in upper limb muscles.
So you have to land in that Goldilocks zone.
You have to measure your power and your time to land right in that zone.
So let's apply all of this to a real-world device, the PRUNGO FLUXGO. It combines a 660mm LED with an 850mm polarized laser for spot therapy. What does this all mean for the device the 5K runner reviewed?
Well, if we line up its specs against the science, it's actually a very smart design. First, the wavelengths are spot on.
660 and 850.
660 for that surface inflammation and 850 for the deep penetration, targeting that 3 to 5 centimeter depth.
But it has this unique feature, right? The polarization.
Yes. The 850mm laser has a polarized filter. The maker claims this minimizes light scattering.
Which is the enemy of deep penetration.
It is. And research does support this. Polarized light can penetrate more directly, more linearly, which is crucial for getting to a deep hip joint or into thick muscle.
Okay, let's crunch the numbers. The dose. In its most powerful setting, the strong mode. Does it hit that 10 to 70 joule window?
The specs tell us strong mode runs for 20 minutes. The LED is putting out 80 mil WCM in OPS, and the laser is at 100 milli rate of CMAS hours. When you do the math, that device delivers a cumulative dose of about 12 to 15 JCML per session.
So 12 to 15 JCML. That falls directly in the low to mid range of that scientific window, which is ideal for muscles and joints.
Exactly. It's a solid therapeutic dose. It's high enough to trigger that cellular energy boost, but low enough that you're not really risking that biphasic dose response kicking in.
And this seems to translate to what users are feeling. The 5K runner review was pretty compelling.
Very. They reported significant relief for chronic pain, saying it accelerated resolution from 2 weeks down to just 2 or 3 days.
For arthritis, for back pain.
And for acute stuff, they noted an 80 to 90% recovery of a calf twinge overnight.
That's incredible.
It's also shown to be effective for really tough chronic inflammation in hard-to-reach places, like under the kneecap or deep in the shoulder.
So the technical design, the wavelengths, the polarization, the irradiance levels engineered to hit that dose, it all explains why people are getting such targeted results.
The conclusion is simple, really. The technology works when it follows the physics of light delivery.
The key takeaway for you, listening, is really clear. Red light therapy is not a gimmick. It is a science. It's built on optimizing your cellular energy with a very precise dose. So for effective deep tissue pain relief, you have to look for devices with those highly penetrative NIR wavelengths, 810 to 850 nanometers, and they need to have sufficient power output to achieve a therapeutic JCM dose. For deep issues, remember that number, 10 to 70 JCM FESM.
It really is empowering to know the numbers. But, moving beyond just muscles and skin, the most profound research happening now is with near-infrared light for neurological issues. We talked about the studies on stroke and TBI and helping manage depression and anxiety by activating mitochondria in the brain.
So if light can modulate cellular function that effectively in the brain, what other complex systemic conditions might PBM eventually address?
That is the ultimate question. How close are we to cracking the perfect dose for other sensitive tissues like the liver or our endocrine glands? And maybe more fundamentally, if we can boost the energy of stress cells by 30 or 40% with non-invasive light. Are we looking at a complete paradigm shift in how we approach systemic fatigue-related illnesses?
A truly illuminating thought.
It really makes you reconsider the potential of biophysics in medicine.
Something for you to chew on.